Welcome to the channel's book club. Last week, we offered you the chance to win this book titled My Autobiography by former Manchester United manager, Sir Alex Ferguson. The quiz question was, what is the title of Sir Alex Ferguson's first autobiography? We said the winner will be the first person to get the right answer. Well, the answer to the question is Managing My Life, My Autobiography. It was released soon after the historic treble win by United in 1999. We'll be announcing the winner of this quiz contest at the end of today's show, so please stay tuned. In today's episode, we'll be showing you two interviews. The first interview is one I had with Professor Oyebanji Oyelaran-Oyeyinka, the author of Rich Country, Poor People. And the second one is one I had with Sukomi Vaughn, author of a new groundbreaking book for those trying to figure out what kinds of businesses they can start. Both interviews have related events, which we'll also be showing you. Please join us after this break.
Many factors define your health. Some you can control, while others are simply beyond you. On Health News, we highlight all these factors and through medical experts provide information that will help you take informed decisions on healthy living, nutrition, and keeping fit. Get incisive health policy analysis. Health News, promoting good health.
Two men, two dreams, two books, both of hopes for a better Nigeria. Professor Oyebanji Oyeyinka and Sukomi Vaughn. Professor Oyeyinka holds a first-class bachelor degree from the University of Ife in chemical engineering in 1978, a master's degree from University of Toronto in chemical engineering, and a doctorate degree from University of Sussex in science policy research in 1983 and 1988 respectively. He is the first Nigerian and the second African professor in the field of technology management, innovation policy and development. An erudite scholar, he is both a man of ideas and action who mixes rigorous scholarship with untiring policy and advocacy. And his book, titled Rich Country, Poor People, Nigeria's Story of Poverty in the Midst of Plenty, is one that can be described as a paradox. Sukomi Vaughn, a pharmacist with a yearning for youth development. His book, 1,000 plus practical business ideas and directory of money sources, is directed to university graduates seeking direction on opportunities. The launch began with a dance by the author's daughter, and once that was done, the author schools the crowd on why he came up with the book.
Why the book? Sometimes I ask myself, am I not an organizer in a carpenter's workshop? But before I indulge you with that, I'll quickly tell you that the need for this is not connected with my skill, my experience, and of course, my interactions as a product of the society as well. From the family, how it started, it was a heart-to-heart discussion between a father and a son, despite their generational difference. If you go through the book, it started with my discussion with my dad. He was telling me that a few times he would see some of his friends, their kids will leave school without job. And then he asked me, he said, is it that all the years spent in the university, people were not equipped with what it takes? And it still surprises them when they get out and then the jobs are not there. Because in school, you actually been prepared for that. So, that question was rhetorical, but it also set my mind working because I was also, at that point, also involved in recruitment and training. So I told myself, well, if my dad had asked this question, I asked myself, if I'm leaving school now and I step out and I need information. Where am I going to get it? From the interaction between I and my father, who, despite the generational difference in age, I could still see the need to address a certain fundamental observation that he has seen.
His father proudly speaks on his son.
Very, very proud, very, very happy, very, very delighted that what I give to my children, I brought it out to the world to see. So I'm very, very proud of that.
Both men may have never crossed paths and may never will, but Nigeria and its development remains top priority on their minds.
Thank you for joining us on the channel's book club, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Rich country, poor people. That's a very captivating title. It summarizes the state of Nigeria. Wow. What inspired you to write this, and why did you pick this topic?
I started reflecting on writing this book about 3 years ago. We have gone through a lot in this country. I've worked in several sectors of the Nigerian economy. I was a researcher for many years. And the more one dwells on the state of the country, the more you wonder why we are growing so fast. Recently, Nigeria economy was rebased at $510 billion. We overtook South Africa as the richest country in Africa. But when you look at the poverty rates and the levels of poverty in the country, it's really alarming. It's not just the status of the poverty itself, but the way it's been rising. For instance, when you compare several states and regions of the country, you go to some places in the northwest and northeast of the country, you have poverty levels of over 70%. Places, I don't want to mention specific names, over 80%. For a country that is generating so much wealth, natural resources, agricultural resources, petroleum, gas, to have such large swaths of people living under poverty, that's what got me thinking. And it's not just that, it's also the fact that inequality is widening, meaning that the gap between the rich and the poor is widening at a very alarming rate. And any country where you have this phenomena, you are heading for trouble. So I thought I should call attention in my own small way to this situation. It's fortuitous that this year is the 100 years of Nigeria. I know there are arguments for and against amalgamation. But it was, for me, a point at which we should reflect on where we're going, where we're coming from. The country has been riding on potential for so long. The potential, the promise had never been fulfilled. This is what got me thinking.
And I'm also guessing it has to do with your role as a director with the UN Habitat headquarters. Yeah. Are there things or researches the UN has been conducting that led you to observe some of these things that now inspired your writing the book?
Yes, indeed. One of the advantages one has working in this environment in the United Nations, and I've been in charge of the flagship report for the UN Habitat, is that when you look at the figures and you compare the changes with comparative countries over the years with Nigeria, you really get worried. You get not just worried, you get concerned, you get angry to see where we were and where others were and where they are now and where we are. I look at these figures all the time. You look at countries of the East Asian countries, for instance, where we started with, South Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, which they've overtaken us enormously. When you look at Nigeria's performance in industrialization, those countries that we started with have completely overtaken us. In 1975, UNIDO set the target that any country that will industrialize should have 25% GDP contribution from manufacturing. Today we have about 6%. And you see all these countries actually becoming global factories of the world. Korea, now China, before then Japan. This was where we aspired to be. I was one of those in the 70s who were in Jakarta and all those places where we thought Nigeria was going to be the powerhouse of manufacturing in Africa. We never moved beyond that. We never moved beyond the potential. So you see all these figures, I compare them with where we were, where we are, and I also look at current contemporary figures, especially of poverty, inequality. We shouldn't be where we are now. And this is what I'm calling attention to. And I made a statement in an article I wrote for The Guardian recently that it's not just about one government, it's been almost all governments. It's not just about today, it's about yesterday. Several years ago, I actually had an example where, you know, I don't want to mention specific names now. When board members come to those meetings, for weeks you don't even have interest. They don't just carry away the money, they carry away the cars, and nobody talked. So now we need to talk. We need to call attention to these issues. This is really my motivation.
So what are readers going to find in this book?
In this book, there are 7 chapters in this book. There are 6 analytical chapters. In what I've done broadly is to divide them into all these issues. The first chapter actually looked at what we've done with what we have. What have we done with the gas, with the oil, with the human resources? We have done very poorly. In the second chapter, I looked at the oil economy. Oil economy is a very corrupting economy. When not properly handled, countries really miss it. Many people have heard about the resource costs. You know about the danger of sliding into non-governance zone when you have all manner of difficulties in managing your resources. We are a country that produces crude, but we import kerosene. We import all manner of finished products. We're a country that producing gas, but everybody's using other things except gas in our houses. We're a country where producing gas, but cement companies cannot have gas. So in that second chapter, we looked at the perils of an oil economy. And in the central chapter of this book are the 3, 4, 5 chapters where I actually analyze the issues of inequality and poverty in our country. They are filled with data, and I will really encourage people to look at this. And this is really the center of my message.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure to be here again.
Coming up next is Sunkomi Vaughn, the author of 1,000 plus practical business ideas and directory of money sources. Please stay tuned.